Hey guys, it's Sam, and today I'm going to talk about the books that I read in July. So you may remember in June that I was feeling all optimistic about my reading. I was like, yeah, I'm totally coming out of this reading slump. That was a lie. I didn't know it was a lie at the time though. And I think July just ended up being a busier month than I thought. I had a friend visiting one of the weekends. There was just like generally stuff going on a lot, so I haven't had as much time to read, but still, I really thought I was gonna read more books than this, but I did read 4, which was more than I did think that I read. I forgot that I had read an audiobook. So yeah, let's get into the books that I read. Also, if you want more in-depth reviews of all of the books that I read that don't get videos, of course, Kit's gonna come right into the frame as soon as I start doing this. That is an option on the Bibliothecary. The highest tier gets all the perks I've talked about before with the Discord and the watch-alongs and the polls for books that I'll read and video topics I'll do and monthly tarot card readings and all of the stuff, but they also get an audio review for every single book that I don't make a video review for. And those are all up to date, all current as of the filming of this video. And they also get the occasional podcasty type discussion that I just want to record audio for, not a video for. So if you're interested in more content from me than what you get on the channel, that's linked up above. Well, let's get into it. The first book that I read was The Last Goodbye by Fiona Lucas. This is an adult contemporary romance that follows two perspectives of Anna and Brody. Anna was widowed 3 years ago when her husband got in a tragic accident, and she is still reeling from that loss and still going through her grief. And on New Year's Eve, she ends up calling his number, as she sometimes does but hasn't done in a while, to hear his voicemail, and someone actually answers. And she quickly realizes that she forgot to pay the bill for his phone line that she's been keeping active just for this purpose, and someone else now has the number. That person is Brody, whose perspective we also get. They end up connecting over this theme of loss because he has also lost someone, and he's also struggling with severe agoraphobia and panic attacks, and we get to follow mostly their individual stories, but they also are corresponding, I think, throughout the course of like a year, and sort of how that relationship is building as well. So as I mentioned, this is definitely a grief story, so trigger warnings for multiple kinds of death, as well as panic attacks and agoraphobia. The panic attacks are really well represented in my opinion as somebody who's had panic attacks, and also the treatment of the panic attacks that Brody goes through is also accurate, again, from a professional's opinion. I end up giving this one 3 out of 5 stars. It was enjoyable enough, but I found that I don't tend to like these stories where the couple is like talking over letters or phone or whatever, where they don't actually get to meet, because I really like two people like meeting and growing together and like having that in-person chemistry, similarly to how I feel about my own relationships. I'm not like a long-distance pen pal type person. So I found the romance part of this actually a bit lackluster because it takes so long in these kinds of stories for these couples to eventually meet. So this is much more about her grief story, his mental illness stuff that he's trying to overcome, her stuff a lot with her family, like her in-laws, especially her mother-in-law, who is a very like toxic mother-in-law. So mostly their individual stories, but I still think it was well written, and if you do enjoy a grief story, you're probably going to like this. So 3 out of 5 stars. Then the book that I was reading for most of June and July is Bloodwitch by Susan Dennard. This is a reread for me. So I was rereading this for Witch Shadow, which I did not finish in July. I just finished it today as of the filming of this video. And I was reading that for most of July. I feel like I finished this like the first week and a half into July, and I was reading it for a lot of June. So this just proves that I'm in a slump, because this is one of my favorite series and I should be getting through this fairly quickly, and I just wasn't. So I do have a review for Bloodwitch from when I read it when it first came out. I also recently did a video talking about how this series is amazing and everyone should read it. So I will link those on the screen for you to check out if you're interested. I still love this book just as much as I did the first time that I read it. I still love the character explorations in these books and where the story is going. Not gonna get into much of this here because you've already heard me talk about this book a ton, but still 5 out of 5 stars for me. Then, this is actually 5 books I'm gonna talk about in this video because I DNF'd one book that I didn't count in my book count. I DNF'd The Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels by India Holton. This is the first book in what's going to be a series, and basically I DNF'd it like 15 or 20% of the way into the book because this is a historical fantasy romance. It's definitely like a romance, kind of funny tongue-in-cheek, and has a lot of like magical elements that are like really over the top magical elements, like more parody kind of things. Like basically these women are pirates, but they're pirates that can fly their houses around in like Victorian society. I mean, I'm not even sure if it's actually Victorian era, but like it's, you know, historical, older. And it's just a lot of like really over the top, again, like tongue-in-cheek, the romance that was gonna form, I think, was also very just like cheeky. Like, it's just a little too much for me, and I've realized I've tried to read books like this twice now that have like magical elements in a romance kind of story. I don't tend to like it. I haven't tried a full-blown like fantasy romance that takes the world building like slightly more seriously. I've only ever dabbled in like these ones that end up being like kind of funny, but the funniness just doesn't really like, it hasn't yet jived with me, because it's not quite a like urban fantasy, like having romantic elements in with your fantasy. Like it's a different category, a different subgenre that I don't enjoy. So I end up DNFing this, not because it's bad, it's just not for me or something that I enjoy. I then read Well Matched by Jen DeLuca, which is the third book in her Ren Fair Companion series, which is an adult contemporary romance series that takes place in a small town that hosts a Ren Fair every year, and this is the third book, which follows a couple that was teased in the first book. So I was really looking forward to this book ever since the first book. This is following the main character of the first book's sister, April, and Mitch, who's one of the characters has been in all of the books, who's a main part of the Ren Fair. This is only in the POV of April, though. We don't get Mitch's perspective. And there are a number of tropes in here. There's fake dating, there's a single mom. April's child is now 18 and about to graduate. There is an age gap, so she's an older woman, he's a younger man. I think he's just turning 30 or turning like 29, and she's 40. And then he's definitely a himbo as well. So this one I didn't enjoy as much as I was hoping to. I enjoyed it more than the second book, which I didn't really like in this series, but I didn't love this quite as much as the first book. So April and Mitch have kind of been adjacently friends for a few years now, and Mitch asks April to be his fake girlfriend for this family event that he's going to, because his family doesn't take it very seriously, and he kind of wants a girlfriend like her to prove that like he's mature and things like that. And she's also planning on moving and fixing up her house, so they kind of trade off, like, I'll do this for you if you help me like paint my house and change out the cabinets and things like that. The thing with this fake dating trope that I didn't really enjoy in this book is I like fake dating that's a little bit like more sort of prolonged before they get together necessarily, because then the tropes of fake dating kind of work better as far as like, oh, we're faking it or we're not or whatever because nothing's happened. The scenario in which they have to fake date happens like pretty quickly, like 30% of the way into the book, and then there's definitely things about them like getting together at that point, but then we still have the characters, well, April, since we have her perspective, being like, oh no, it's all fake, and that I find really annoying. Her stubbornness and unwillingness to see like what's right in front of her and what's blatantly being told to her multiple times was really frustrating. And I get that she has more of like an anxious, avoidant personality, but again, one of the things I realized, I don't really like that. There's a little bit too much the lady doth protest too much kind of thing. Like, come on, like, you guys are obviously into each other, you've gotten together at this point, like, just stop. So I do find the conflict in Jen DeLuca's series to be like not quite believable for me. Like, it's a little bit too much in all of the books thus far, but I enjoyed the like slow build burn of the first book a lot, and I was hoping we would have some of that back, and we didn't so much here, but I did still pull for them ultimately. April also has some pretty severe social anxiety that I think was depicted pretty well, and I did still like them when they got together. Like, he is such a sweet man, and I just really enjoy him. So I gave this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. Not my favorite, so my favorite of the series is definitely Well Met, which is the first book, then this book, and then Well Played, which is the second book, which had like catfishing in it. I wasn't really into it. So I would still read Jen DeLuca's books. I'm not sure if she's done with this Ren Fair series or not. And then the last book I read was An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. This is actually part of our House Salt Book Club pick for July and August. We're reading the entire duology, and then we'll be having a live show the end of August here on my channel for the entire series. But this is an adult science fiction duology. This is the first book in the series. It follows the main character of April, and she discovers on her way home one day in New York City this like giant sculpture statue thing that she thinks is just a statue. She ends up making a YouTube video about it. It goes viral because apparently these statues have popped up all at the same time everywhere around the world, and she starts kind of becoming like the face of this story and sort of makes herself the face of the story, and everything kind of goes from there as they discover like what are these things and everything like that. I did listen to this on audio, which I really enjoyed, and this kind of reminded me of the Themis Files by Sylvain Neuvel, like similar vibes to it. If you enjoyed that series, especially if you listened to it on audio, I think you'd really enjoy this one as well thus far. I will say similarly to the Themis Files when I read it is that I'm not super connected to these characters so much, but I do enjoy like the overall plot and story. Like, it was definitely an interesting first contact story, and what I liked that Hank Green did is, one, I couldn't feel him in it in the way that sometimes you can like tell internet personalities or authors that start on the internet and then create a book and then you can kind of like see them in it really clearly. Here I could tell that someone with internet experience wrote this, but I wasn't necessarily like hearing Hank Green's voice, which was kind of nice. Funny I say that because he does read a part at the end of the audiobook, but you know what I mean. But what was really well done is a lot of this is about April having this internet persona and building a brand and building this YouTube channel and whatever, and it was so organic because you can tell that Hank gets it. There's so many authors that try to make their characters be like bloggers or YouTubers or whatever, and you can tell that they don't know what they're talking about, and they don't know how it works, and it just feels so forced and cheesy. And here I was like, oh no, you can tell this is Hank or somebody that understands this because this is how it works. This does feel very real. So I really enjoyed that. This is blatantly a duology in the way that it ends. Like, you need the whole next part of the story. There are some things about like kind of unlikable characters as far as April being like sort of unlikable and kind of what's gonna happen from there. But I feel like this is a book that I can't fully review because it's really all like one story, which is why we're reading it as a whole duology for House Up Book Club. But I did give it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Enjoyable. We'll see what the rest of the duology brings. I'll be finishing it in August. And those are all the books that I read in July. Again, more than I thought, but not as many as I had hoped. So comment below, let me know if you've read any of these books and also what you read in July, what was enjoyable or not enjoyable for you. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all guys soon. Bye.